Good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for having me here. My name is Vidur Kapur, and today I'm going to be speaking about an incredibly important topic that's of a great fascination to many of us: the quest to the dawn. I'd like you all to raise your hand if you've ever felt like you've had multiple sleepless nights. Raise your hand if you've felt that nobody understands you. Well, guess what? It's not only you. They say 1 out of 5 people in India battle anxiety, fear, and depression. And as per me, the ratio is much more than that. So, just like many of you, even I faced a lot of hardships growing up. Bad days would turn into sleepless nights. But one thing that kept me going was the quest for dawn, or the ray of hope for a better tomorrow. So a couple of months back, I was actually reading this very interesting book by Osho that spoke about a man who climbed a massive mountain, but he managed to misjudge the time. By the time he decided to come down, it became very dark. And about 7 p.m., it became so dark that he just wouldn't move. And the same man got paralyzed that night. With a ray of sunlight the next day, he started laughing. And he started laughing really hard because what he felt was a cliff, was nothing but a stoned platform. And it was of absolutely no danger to this man. Yet he got paralyzed that night because of all the fear in his life. So I'd like you to see this very interesting video that I have for you right here. So have you ever imagined why an elephant, being the most gigantic animal in the universe, is so calm and so docile in a circus? The same elephant, if he wants, he can actually bring down the entire circus and he can destroy it and kill the people. But yet he remains so calm and docile. Why do you think that happens? So when an elephant is born, he's chained. And he's conditioned to believe that these chains are his boundaries and he cannot move beyond them. And that's what happens with many of us, that we get conditioned to our childhood beliefs. And secondly, we find it a trouble speaking to people about our problems. So just about last weekend, I met a family friend of mine who's also a doctor and a psychologist. And he was telling me about this patient that kept coming to him and she kept complaining about stomachache. So the doctor checked all her records. Everything was absolutely fine. Yet this lady kept complaining about stomachache. So to establish a bond and to get to know this lady much better, the doctor started asking her questions. Questions about her childhood and also questions about her mother's pregnancy. And that gives me goosebumps right here because the doctor even checked on her mother's pregnancy. So now this patient started opening up and she started telling him that when her mother was pregnant, she lost her father for cancer and she was really depressed. Moving ahead, when this patient was born, the mother also divorced her husband. So now this patient, very early in life, had taken all the depression to her gut. And from the gut, it traveled to her brain. And that is why they say that happy mothers make happy babies. However, now, because the patient started talking to the doctor, she's living a much better life and she's made peace with her childhood. That is why they say, whenever you're in a situation, speak to people because you will always figure it out. So now, how to unearth a new life? and how to do something remarkably amazing. The first thing right here, master repeat training. So now, for instance, if you want to become a doctor, you have to put in the practice. Similarly, if you want to become a chef, you have to put in the practice. So they say that it takes somewhere about 10,000 hours or equivalent to 10 years for the first signs of genius to start showing. Secondly, embrace hard times. Remember that every successful person was once a failure. In fact, so many times what happens is that, just about last weekend, I met a friend of mine who had a very successful debut with Netflix. And I asked him, I said, how did you manage that after so many years? He said, Vidur, I gave about 1,000 auditions because I knew that even if one clicks, I will make it really big. Thirdly, release the attachment of outcome. So many of us don't do things that we fear because we feel that people are going to judge us or simply if we are going to make it or not. That is why in India, they say that log kya kahege has killed a million dreams. Fourthly, hang with the super achievers. If you know somebody who's done very good in their business or in whatever talent that they have, start going out with them for breakfast or lunch. Start exchanging ideas because your vibe is always your tribe and your tribe is always your vibe. Now let's understand the paradigm of life. And this is something which I really believe in. On the stage one, you have the survival of the fittest, or simply the life cycle of the universe. On stage two, you've got the status. Now, by status, what do we mean? We mean the society, the obligation of the society, or just your situations that you are in life. On stage three, you've got freedom. Now, what do I mean by freedom? Freedom of doing what you want, when you want, with who you want, and how you want. And fourthly, on the pinnacle of it all, the purpose. The purpose, which is also the vajud or the mission of life. So then I was reading about some of the most famous people out there, Mahatma Gandhi and Nelson Mandela. And what I found was for all of them, the purpose of their life was so big that every problem became very small. So what I learned out of Nelson Mandela's wisdom is something you all must listen to. So Nelson Mandela, did you know, spent 27 years in prison in Robben Island. So he spent these 27 years in prison meditating, manifesting, and visualizing. So much so, he was so calm that when he came out of the prison for the first time, he gave a rose to the janitor and to the security guard for taking such good care of the prison cell. Years later, he became the first black president of South Africa. And that right there was his purpose of life, that even those 27 years did not dull his sparkle. So how does it feel when you go in the morning, you enter a Starbucks and they call out your name and they have your name written on your coffee cup? How does it feel? You feel belonged, right? So did you know that the man who owned Starbucks was once an employee at Starbucks? And he proposed to the management that let's start writing people's name. Let's start calling them by their names. But the management refused. Soon after, he left Starbucks and he made his massive coffee empire, so much so that years later, he could actually buy Starbucks. And that was his purpose, to make people feel belonged with the help of coffee. Or even for that matter, legendary writers such as J.K. Rowling. It was always her purpose to provide for her 3-month-old daughter when she was completely jobless, homeless. She lost her mother, she lost her husband, and it was a purpose to provide for her daughter why she became one of the biggest legendary writers today. So I'll show you this very interesting clip from right here.
सारे लोगों में एक और नाम था जो मैंने नहीं लिया, शायद इसलिए कि वो नाम इतना महान नहीं, लेकिन तकलीफ उसे भी वही है। वो नाम है राम शंकर निकुम। तकलीफ थी। मेरे पिताजी मुझे समझ ही नहीं पाए। उनको लगता था कि मैं शैतानी कर रहा हूं, जानबूझ के नहीं पढ़ रहा हूं। उनको लगा आगे चलकर मेरा कुछ नहीं होगा। ये टफर इडियट क्या कर पाएगा। आज जो हूं तुम्हारे सामने हमेशा। चले। क्या आप मेरे घर गए थे?
So it was the purpose of Amir Khan in the movie Tare Zameen Par to help out this little boy because even he was facing dyslexia at some point in his life. So that is why they say that whenever you're in a trouble or whenever you find that somebody in a trouble, please speak to them and help them out. I would like to conclude today's talk by saying that the purpose of your life is all around you. Embrace it, reflect upon it, make it very, very big. And remember that whenever you fear something, when you do it repeatedly, the fear dissolves. So thank you so much and have a great day tomorrow. Thank you so much.